Kwaba, welcome to this week's episode of Ghana in Focus with myself, Kwame, Ghanaian writer, broadcaster, journalist, entrepreneur, podcaster, and historian. And in this week's episode of Ghana in Focus, it's a budget special. So we are analysing the budget that happened in the last week in Ghana, and particularly to you as somebody that lives in the diaspora, Ghanaian or African in the diaspora, what that means for you if you want to invest in Ghana and do business in Ghana, and also what it means for the ordinary Ghanaian living in Ghana. So that's the theme for today, budget special, the key takeaways from budget 2026 in Ghana. So before we start the show, as usual, if you like what you hear, please share to your friends, your family, social media networks, subscribe to Ghana African Fix on YouTube. You want to get a lot more subscribers on YouTube, so please tell your friends and family to subscribe to Ghana African Fix on YouTube. Hit the notification bell, meaning that every time we upload a new podcast, YouTube will notify you of that. Also, subscribe to Ghana African Fix on Spotify. Hit the follow button, meaning that Spotify will notify you each and every time we upload a new podcast. All right, so subscribe to Ghana African Fix on YouTube and also on Spotify. And if you'd like to donate to the show to help us to continue bringing great content from Ghana and also from the African continent, you can donate a little as $3 a month. That could be either as a one-off payment or you can do it as a monthly subscription. It's entirely to yourself. So if you'd like to donate, you can just hit the donate button on the funnels to the show. All right, so let's get into the show and let's look at the budget. But before we do so, if you still want to do business in Ghana and following the budget, you may want to do that. We do a consultancy session whereby we can give you a lot of advice and signpost you to some important industries that could help you. So I've got more than 10 years experience of doing business in Ghana, and we can give you a lot of good advice that you may not get anywhere else. So if you want to book an hour consultation with myself, which costs $30 for the hour or $20 for a half-hour briefing session, then you can just email me to book your consultation, and my email address is on the footnotes to the show. All right, so let's get into the podcast, looking at the recent budget in Ghana, looking about the main takeaways and what it means for you as somebody, who wants to come to Ghana to do business, to live, work, and even, set up entrepreneurship in Ghana. And also what it means for you guys living in Ghana, typically with the cost of living and also taxes as well. All right, so the Ghana's 2025 budget under President John Dramani Mahama, this is his first budget of the second term, and Finance Minister Ato Forson essentially focused on stabilizing the economy from the taxes of the last NPP government under the leadership of Nana Addo Akufo-Addo and Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, reducing inflation, easing the tax burden, also reducing the debt burden that Ghana is in, and also creating a pro-growth environment that will allow businesses to flourish and develop. Now, for ordinary Ghanaians, it promises relief on the cost of living crisis that I've talked about a lot this year, also reforms to make businesses easier, stronger growth prospects, and also deliberate measures to attract diaspora investment. So, in a nutshell, that's what the budget was focused on. Now we're going to give you some main takeaways from the 2025 budget. Now, in line with the reset theme, the budget was presented under the theme resetting the economy for the Ghana we want. Yeah, so signaling a shift from crisis management that the Akufo-Addo government had left the John Dramani Mahama government to recovery of the economy and to exert or instill further growth in the economy. Okay? So one of the key riders of the budget was debt and financial discipline. Now, when the government came into power on January 7th this year, Ghana's debt was more than 900 billion Ghana cedis, divided by, current rates, so divided by 11 to a dollar and divided by 15 to a pound. So you get how high Ghana's public debt stood. Yeah. And at the time, that was run about between 90 and 100% of GDP. Yeah. As of the budget, which was read last Thursday, public debt stood at 726.7 billion Ghana cedis. That's a whopping 200 billion cedis plus that's been removed from the debt, meaning that today, as we speak, Ghana's GDP debt ratio is now gone from the 90s to 61.8%. Yeah, which is very, very good considering what position Ghana was in this time last year. Yeah. So given this, then the government of John Dramani Mahama has pledged aggressive fiscal consolidation, cutting waste, and also restructuring debt. Now, inflation and growth targets. So inflation, which was at roughly 25% a year ago and went to about 25% at the beginning of the year, is now currently at 9%, so it's single digit, yeah? But it's targeted to fall to about 11.9% by the end of the year, yeah? Because obviously we're in the Christmas season now, and that's, people are going to import a lot of goods and services into the country, so that's going to have an effect on inflation. But, even if it goes to 12%, it's much, much better than 25% that this current government inherited when they came in January this year. So it shows you a rapid transformation, as well as, economic management, yeah, that this current government has done to ensure that inflation has now, hit, we could say, respectable levels of between 9 and 12%, yeah? And so GDP growth is projected at 4% overall, and then 4.3% for non-oil sectors. So, sorry, a big part of 4.8% for non-oil sectors, yeah? So, this again is good. So in Britain is even struggling to get 1%, yeah? And Ghana is getting between 4 and 4.8%. So it shows you how strong Ghana's economy is becoming, and it signifies that this year has been a period of recovery, and then next year is to try and consolidate that recovery as Ghana exits the IMF arrangement, which I believe ends in May 2026, but we keep an eye on that. So that's the projection for Ghana's overall growth for the year coming. Now, taxes. Now, taxes was a big bane in the election campaign, and this taxes contributed to the A, cost living crisis, and also B, why a lot of big businesses left Ghana last year. As you call, I did the podcast as to why a lot of big companies were leaving Ghana. So you had big, dark and lovely, ShopRite, they've gone. Many big companies left Ghana last year because of the high taxes, yeah, that was stifling business growth and development, yeah. So under this budget, 6 taxes were abolished, and those taxes include the controversial e-levy, the controversial COVID levy, and also the emissions levy, yeah. So these taxes that have now been eased, A, ease the cost of living crisis, okay? Also helps household budget because households can now, budget particularly for their local shop, meaning that if they're not going to spend as much as they were before because these taxes have been removed. And also, it's going to help businesses spare production because now the businesses are not going to pay as much tax as they were. So this extra money could be used to inject growth within their businesses and also increase local production as well. So the budget also highlighted the 24-hour economy, and I'll come on to some of that later on. So this 24-hour economy is a flagship policy by the John Dramani Mahama government to expand job opportunities and productivity by encouraging around-the-clock economic activity. All right. Also, within the budget, there was energy and infrastructure development. So LNG, if you live in Ghana and if you've been listening to Ghana in Focus, you know that there's been problems with Dumso, which is the light off, light on, that Ghana experienced a lot last year. And that's because of the huge debt the Electricity Company of Ghana and its subsidiaries owe, which apparently is 21 billion Ghana cedis. I beg your pardon. It's around about 21 billion Ghana cedis. So divide that by 11 to $1 and divide that by 15 to £1, and you get how much Ghana is ECG is owed by the state and by other agencies, which is causing interest in Ghana. Also, the budget also has a commitment to clear arrears, and that amounts to some 2 billion Ghana cedis. That is owed to, 2 billion US dollars. That is owed to road contractors. Yeah. So that's a very positive development out there, because a lot of road projects have stalled recently because of the colossal amount of money that is owed to road contractors. So the government now has earmarked some money to ensure that these contractors are paid, and so that a lot of the major road projects are now being able to get back to full capacity. And I know that this year, or the year coming, Mama has targeted that a lot of the roads in Ghana are going to be built and redone. And he says that Ghana is going to become one massive, road, network or road traffic site. And it is Ghanaians to be patient with him for the next 2 years as he commits to improving Ghana's road network. And there's a lot of roads in Ghana that are going to be addressed, particularly the Accra to Kumasi, highway. Apparently, it's going to be a new expressway. We hope that's going to be built, because since Kufuor's time, every government since 2004, or since 2000, has made a commitment to dualize the Accra Kumasi road, and that hasn't been done in 25 odd years. So we hope and pray that the Accra Kumasi expressway, now touted by the Mahama government, it does see the light of day, because that is a big road project, because that connects the two main cities in Ghana, Accra and Kumasi, and a lot of business is done within those two cities, and a lot of traffic is also done within those two cities. So, apparently, we do hear on the grapevine that is going to be an Accra Kumasi expressway. That is going to be, potentially a 6-lane, 3-lane, 3-lane, and to reduce the time, which currently stands anywhere between 5 and 6 hours from Accra to Kumasi, to reduce that time to between 3 and 3.5 hours. So we do hope and pray that a lot of these road contractors or road projects that are going to be done, particularly the Accra to Kumasi one, will be completed. And I think Mahama has given at least 2 years for many of the road projects that are evident now to be completed by the close of 2028. But the Accra Kumasi Gather will be completed around about mid or the end of 2029. So we look forward to that infrastructure development, road network development going on in the country. Now, in terms of how the budget will affect the cost of living, so these tax cuts and abolishment, so the removal of 6 taxes directly reduces household expenditure and business costs, as I mentioned earlier on. So inflation control targeting inflation at between 9 and 12%, means stabilizing food prices. Because again, if you're listening to the show, you will be aware that food prices have been a big issue in the last year, 18 months. And so low inflation will hopefully mean stable food prices so that Ghanaians can afford to buy 3 square meals a day. And also transport costs as well, because transport was getting expensive as well in terms of filling up your car and also paying for public transport. So hopefully this means that transport will be stabilized as well, which also help in the cost of goods and services. And also housing costs, which have been a major pain points for Ghanaians, will also be eased as well. So in terms of social programs, as I mentioned, the road infrastructure is a key one, but also, increased spending on education and health. So in terms of education, the current government plans to finish all the schools that the Akufo-Addo government didn't finish, and to complete some new ones, because Ghana has a rapid young population, a school-age population, and the infrastructure at the moment does not cater for that population of school children. So the government are going to spend a lot of money to build new schools and to finish the ones that were left behind by the last government. So that's a very positive development. And also, in terms of health, to build the new hospitals, Agenda 111, that were left by the Akufo-Addo government. So this will also help reduce the burden on those costs for families who are on lower or middle income. Now, in terms of doing business, and this is why I said that if you want to do business in Ghana, this could be important for you. Yeah. So a tax system. So there's plans for that reforms and also a tax amnesty programs to encourage compliance and also reduce penalties for businesses. Yeah, because there's a lot of red tape in Ghana right now in terms of business development and also trying to establish a business, and also the taxation of that business will pay. But by having these tax amnesties and also that reforms, it will encourage business stimulation and also business growth and development. Yeah. So again, in terms of currency stabilization, the government has stabilized the cedi. So that's going to, stabilize the exchange rate. That will make importers not pay too much when they go and bring things into a country, and also reducing, like I said, the forex risk for local businesses. Okay, so in terms of the wide economy and growth, so as I mentioned already, the World Bank has upgraded Ghana's growth for this year to forecast about 4.3%, citing strong growth in the service sector, which will be up by 9.9% in the second quarter of next year. Also, in terms of the wider economy, what the budget has highlighted, and also in the last year in terms of the economic management of Ghana, is actually increase investor confidence, because like I said, a lot of businesses left Ghana last year because they were not confident in the outlook of the wider economy. But in the year the year that we're in, that's changed. A lot's happened in the last year. And so, the mid-year data showed GDP growth of about 6.3%. Yeah. And that has surpassed targets. And that is driven mainly by agriculture, which is very, very good, and also ICT. Yeah. So a fiscal surplus. So a primary surplus of about 2% of GDP is expected, and that's signifying an improved fiscal health as compared to the debt crisis that was inherited by the government earlier this year. So in terms of diaspora, you from the diaspora listening to this podcast, what does it mean for you then? Now check this now. So Ghana hosted major diaspora summits this year, shifting focus from remittances to actually structural investments. Yeah. And also, government and its partners, i.e. Fidelity Bank and others, are creating platforms for diaspora entrepreneurs to channel funds into local innovation. Now, the budget emphasized stability, debt restructuring and growth, making Ghana more attractive for the diaspora and also returnee seeking property, business or community investments. So that's how you, as somebody from the diaspora, a Ghanaian, born and raised in the UK or outside of Ghana, Europe and North America, this is what it signals for you. And also, if you're African wanting to do business in Ghana, this is what the budget means for you, yeah? Making it more attractive for you as African from the diaspora to do business in Ghana. Now, in short, the 2025 budget is designed to ease daily cost of living, which will help a lot of Ghanaians at home, make businesses more competitive by removing these nuisance taxes, hence restore growth and actively court diaspora capital. So, this budget has shown that Ghana is ready for business, as the Arthur Forson said, the finance minister. Ghana is ready for business, and that Ghana wants to attract A, the best talent into the country, and also B, the diaspora to come to Ghana to, set up business and also, increase the technological advancement that the country is making. So if you're somebody from the diaspora listening to this, now is a very good time to come to Ghana and invest in Ghana and do business in Ghana. There are many, many opportunities. As you know, throughout this year, I've talked about some of the business opportunities that are there in Ghana. And now, particularly after this budget, particularly after the removal of those taxes, the environment is now very, very conducive towards business agenda in Ghana. Okay? So for me, one of the core key things that I was happy about the budget was, the area of food security. I've talked about that a lot this year in Ghana, on Ghana in Focus, about food security and why Ghana needs to be more food secure. Because like I said before, food can be used as a weapon, to, derail a country's progress, And it's important that a country can feed itself rather than relying on imports of food from other countries. Now, the budget placed food security at the center of this economic reset with major allocations. Now, check this out, major allocations to agriculture programs to boost local production and infrastructure investments to reduce food inflation. Because like I said before, food inflation has been very, very high, for most of this year, particularly last year as well. But for most of this year, food inflation is high. It's only in the last quarter that food inflation is beginning to come down to acceptable levels. Now, the government is betting on initiatives like the Feed Ghana program, poultry self-sufficiency projects, and improved farm-to-market roads to cut reliance on imports and stabilize food prices. Now, this is very important because the road network, particularly within rural areas, is very, very bad. And as part of the road program that John Mahama is pursuing, they intend to improve the road network within the farming communities to ensure that food from the hinterland to the cities is much, much easier. Also, hence, reducing the burden on taxpayers. So Ghana being food secure is a very, very important thing. And this is something that Ibrahim Traore of Burkina Faso has done to make Burkina Faso food secure by investing a lot of money and also equipment and technology to revitalize Burkina Faso's agricultural sector. And I'm very happy that within this program, Ghana is doing the same. So what they've done, they have allocated 1.5 billion Ghana cedis to agriculture, and that entails modernizing agriculture under the Feed Ghana program and aimed at local food production and also minimizing imports. And also the Feed Ghana program is focusing on grains, vegetables, and livestock. and this program is designed to expand domestic food supply and create more jobs within the agriculture sector. Now, the Nkintinkinti Poultry Project is a flagship initiative to raise Ghana's poultry self-sufficiency from 12% to 75% by 2028, reducing dependence on imported chicken and strengthening household nutrition. This is a very, very important development because a lot of the chicken that's coming to Ghana is imported, and unfortunately, a lot of chickens are either genetically modified or heavily laced with chemicals like, even some rumors that arsenic has been to these imported chickens. So we don't know the quality really and the nutrition value of the chickens. But what I do know is that organic chicken in Ghana is much better and much nutritious than a lot of the imported chicken that Ghanaians are eating. And so the Nkintinkinti program is a very, very commendable and worthwhile project from the government of Ghana to reduce our dependency on importation and to increase local production from 12 to 75% by 2028, which is when the next year will be. And that would be a great achievement if that is done. So for me, it's a very, very, because agriculture is the breadbasket of Ghana. And so other developments also include oil palm development, which is a long-term plan, 2026-2032, to transform Ghana's red gold into major agro-industrial driver, diversifying food and export earnings. Again, palm nut in Ghana is a very, very big business, again, and there's rich potential to diversify and even use palm oil for energy, like fuel to put in your car. But that's for another time. But I'm happy that the government has got this oil development plan to transform Ghana's red gold into a major agro-industrial driver. Now, in terms of logistics and infrastructure, like I said, farm-to-market roads. So the government has announced plans to construct 1,000 kilometers of roads in the agriculture enclave with 828 million Ghana cedis allocated to reduce spoilage and transport costs that drive food inflation. Another commendable initiative. Also, storage and value chains, with emphasis on agro-industrial value chains to reduce post-harvest losses and add value to local production. So how does this help Ghanaians in Ghana, and also how does it help you in the diaspora? So lower food prices, so that's very, very important, because by cutting import dependence and improving logistics, the budget aims to stabilize food inflation, which has been a major driver of the cost of living crisis. Job creation. Poultry, grains, and vegetable projects will create hundreds of jobs across rural and urban communities in Ghana. And nutrition and security. Boosting local production ensures households have more reliable access to affordable protein and high nutrition staples, as opposed to the, importation of food, rice, and chicken that really does not have nutritional value. So, as I mentioned, the budget for Africans in the diaspora, agro-investment opportunities, diaspora investors and entrepreneurs can plug into poultry, oil palm, and vegetable value chains supported by government initiatives. Okay? Property and community development, improved food systems, and rural infrastructure make agribusiness linked estates and community projects more viable in terms of even the warehouses silos that can be used to store food so that the food doesn't rot when they're out of harvest or out of season. Yeah. And this is a clear government commitment to food security and signals safer environment for diaspora returnees to invest in agriculture and related industries. So in short, the budget's food security agenda is about self-reliance, affordability, and opportunity. It tackles Ghana's heavy import dependence, builds infrastructure to cut food inflation, and open space for diaspora-led agribusiness ventures. Now, for me, the only downfall really into this budget was the 400 million Ghana cedis that the government has allocated to a women-only bank. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm all for women's empowerment. And again, if you know, if you listen to the show, you know I'm a fan for women's empowerment in Ghana. However, for me, you know, this setting aside the 400 million Ghana cedis, which is about 30 million US dollars, or sorry, 30 million pounds and 40 million US dollars. It's a hell of a lot of money. Yeah. Now, that money, rather than spend it in the women's bank investment bank, that could be channeled, right, into a solar automated built industry in Ghana. Yeah. So Mohammed is talking about 24-hour economy, yeah. And you know, wanting to create an air whereby, you know, Ghana is having factories 24/7 and producing 24/7 and having a workforce for 24/7, yeah. That 400 million Ghana cedis could be used to subsidize Kantanka, who is already making cars at a higher level that can compete with, you know, Korea cars, Japanese cars, American cars, yeah. Kantanka is making great cars, yeah. And Kantanka is Ghana's only indigenous car manufacturer. Like I said, he's got a proven capacity in assembling vehicles and experimenting with solar/stroke electric cars. Yeah. So rather than we import cars, electric cars from outside, and I keep saying this, right? What is good for the European is not necessarily good for us as Africans, right? For example, their tires that they use in Europe, right, that they import to us in Africa, that's for their climate. Yeah, the snow, the wind, the wind, the rain. It doesn't snow in Ghana. Yeah. So the tires that they send to us in Ghana is for the European climate. We can make tires for our own climate in Ghana, particularly heat. Yeah. And so we need to make solar power cars because right now, like I said, there's a dumb issue in Ghana. So why are we going to import these electric cars when there's no reliable electricity in Ghana? So rather than that, then we can invest in solar power cars and give that money to Kantanka. Yeah. So unlike imported electric cars, solar power cars could leverage Ghana's abundant sunlight because the sun shines in Ghana every day. Even if it's the rainy season when it rains a lot, the sun still shines. Yeah. So solar power cars, like I said, could leverage Ghana's abundant sunlight. More importantly, reduce forex on imports and position Ghana. It can position Ghana as a unique hub in Africa for the production of solar power cars. Because outside Burkina, I don't know of any African country that is investing in solar power cars. Yeah. So industrial sovereignty. Now investing 400 million in Kantanka solar power cars would mean that Ghana is not just consuming cars, it's producing them. So rather than assembling VW, Nissan, and Peugeot, that is doing now, and the money is going back to Nissan, Japan, to Peugeot, France, to VW, Germany, right? We'll be producing them ourselves, owning the technology, and exporting the innovation to other African countries. Yeah? Now, this is where gender empowerment comes in. Now, the $400 million of cities that could be used for solar power cars, there could be a quota for female engineers. Now, you tie the investment, yeah, to a mandate for female engineers and technicians, and that would merge the women's empowerment with industrial sovereignty. It would also push more women into science, technology, and engineering fields, breaking barriers beyond retail and microfinance. Yeah. And it also create a multiplier effect. So instead of just giving loans to our women, yeah, women will gain, you know, if the money was given to Kantanka and female engineers, etc., right, that women will gain skills, jobs, and leadership roles in a cutting edge industry like solar technology. Yeah. So for me, you know, the 400 million for the Women's International Bank, Investment Bank, sorry, is a missed opportunity because this can easily feed in, right, to a 24-hour economy by providing 400 million as seed money for Kantanka to produce solar power cars. not understanding that in Korea, the KIA, the Korea Industrial Automobile Industry, was state-sponsored. Samsung, the famous Korean phone company, was state-sponsored before it became the global brand that we see today. Philips, the great Dutch company, was also government funded. Yeah, even Japan, Sony, yeah, that began as a state company, Sony. Yeah, even India, Tata, the great Tata conglomerate that is now over all of Africa, Tata, and even in Europe, right, Tata, that was initially a state-sponsored program by the Indian government to work in line with the Tata family to produce cars. So this is why I'm saying that Mahama has missed a trick with 400 million Ghana cedis, rather than using it for the Women's Investment Bank, could be used to spearhead the 24-hour economy, right? By giving that money to Kantanka to produce solar power cars that can create massive employment in Ghana, help female empowerment, make sure the money stays in Ghana, and also export some of these cars to the other African countries. And Ghana could be a hub for solar technology. And something crazy, yeah? The budget was a very, very innovative budget. Ghana, it was a very, very innovative budget, a very, very creative budget that is putting at the center growth, empowerment, and more particularly food sovereignty. Yeah, also about, building more schools and improving the dilapidated conditions that some of our children are going to, improving their health sector in terms of, building more up-to-date infrastructure and building more up-to-date technology so that women don't have to suffer giving birth, so that we can get rid of prostate cancer and breast cancer in our people, yeah? And also improving the road network so that it makes going up and down the country more easier, particularly amongst the major cities. And so the commitment to improving infrastructure is very commendable. The commitment to low inflation, the commitment to growth and development, and to encourage more business, acumen and more diaspora investment is very, very key parts of this budget that the government has announced just recently. And so, we hope that, the economy of Ghana will grow into next year. But my main fear is that when the government exits the IMF program in 2026, May, which will be the second quarter of next year, yeah, we'll see how well Ghana develops, because historically, right, Ghana has always done well under an IMF program. But when it comes out of the program, Ghana has difficulties. So, for example, I could find the government between 2008 and 2012. Yeah, these first 4 years, Ghana was under the IMF program, and the economy did very, very well. Yeah, so not 2000. So between 2016 and 2020, yeah, Ghana was in the IMF program. Yeah, and the economy was doing very, very well. Yeah, from 2020 to 2024, yeah, obviously COVID withstanding, the economy began to tumble to create the crisis that we saw over the last, particularly 23 and 24. And so I hope that, when Ghana exits the IMF program, second quarter of next year, that the economy will still continue for an upward trajectory. All right, so thank you for listening to this special edition of Ghana in Focus with myself, Kwame. But one thing that the budget again didn't happen before I go. One important thing that the budget missed out was housing. Yeah, and I'm going to take this deeper next week when we talk about housing crisis in Ghana. There's a massive housing shortage in Ghana, about 3 million units, and so the failure of the government, yeah, to not even have a plan, a strategy to build more affordable housing for Ghanaians was a very, very big mistake, because 95% of Ghanaians cannot afford housing. Even you in the diaspora. Yeah, a 2-bedroom house in a nice area is $250,000. How many of you in the diaspora got $250,000 to buy property? Yeah, so that's why the government missed another big trick on having a strategy like Nkrumah, like Achampong, because believe it or not, Nkrumah built Laboni, airport residential area, cantonments, yeah, Kanda, and obviously Tama as part of his housing program. And Achampong, Colonel Kutu Achampong, he built the biggest estate at the time in West Africa, down Somai. He also built Teshin and Guat Estate, and also the Snit Flats. So those two leaders had housing as a key priority in nation building. It's sad that this government didn't do that in the budget, but like I said, we'll go into that deeper next week as to the housing crisis in Ghana. And so thank you for listening to this edition of Ghana in Focus with myself, Kwame, looking at the budget, the pros and cons, and what was in the budget and what was not in the budget. And please share to your friends, your family, social media networks. Subscribe to Ghana, African Focus on YouTube. Subscribe to Ghana, African Focus on Spotify. All right. And next week's show, we'll be looking about the housing crisis in Ghana. Again, how it affects you in Ghana. And also the diaspora community who want to buy property in Ghana or build in Ghana. All right, so for myself, Kwame, and all the crew here on Ghana in Focus, thank you very much for listening. And we'll see you next week for some more Ghana in Focus.